So now we have some time for questions from the audience. Anyone who would like to ask a question, please feel free. Is there anyone?
I have some questions. May I?
Yes. Can you introduce yourself?
Yeah, of course. My name is Sanhee Soo from Nagasaki University. Thank you for sharing this very interesting symposium and also informative presentations. I have a couple of questions. The first one is, so these environmental strategies in a company should be considered in the scale of supply chain, because many individual companies are netted and linkaged in the supply chain. So even though one big company, for example, the Ricoh shown in the presentation, has very good strategies, but if the companies in the linkaged supply chain would not follow, maybe the achievements wouldn't be that big. So I would like to know what is the Japanese companies' strategies to handle and deal with the common senses and common strategy in a supply chain for this CSR or CSV. The second is the comparing to the companies in European company. I heard that Japanese company has such an attitude to wait and see rather than be a pioneer when there is something new coming. So I would like to know what is the level of Japanese companies, this CSR, CSV level comparing to this European company or other companies in the other developed country. And then third is just minor, because I'm very wondering how professors could receive such a large number of the response from the survey implementation, because usually companies are very, not positive and welcome for that kind of survey questionnaire. They do not answer kindly. So could you share the tip how you can get such a large number of samples from Japanese company? That is my questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the nice questions. Now Zaima Sensei will answer.
Thank you very much for question. And I'd like to answer each question. And the first question is about supply chain management achievement activities as for Japanese companies. And Ricoh is one typical company to be, because Ricoh started the supply chain management around 2000 or so. So it is one to one of excellent companies. And in manufacturing industries, most excellent company of manufacturing is Konica Minolta. Konica Minolta is a global company, not Japan, but Konica Minolta has a system to deliver to environmental information to all parts of the in the world. They 伝道師活動みたいな。エヴァンゲライズというかactivities to each areas of the companies. So Konica Minolta is one of the excellent companies for supply chain management. So if you want to research, you can pick up. I recommend Konica Minolta and or Ricoh in manufacturing area. for electronics. And そうですね、others っていうと、まあ、グローバルカンパニーなんですね。And these days I focus on food supply chain, but I cannot recommend essential, excellent companies for green supply chain management. And the second point is, and your question is very excellent. So you asked me which compared with CSV and CSR activities between Japanese companies and European companies, which one is better also. And so, policy, environmental policy and situation, resemble but different. So, so we cannot compare easily, but for example, for European companies, なんていうかな、すぐ、so first movers, European companies moved faster than Japanese companies for CSV activities. So, and they open their information concerning activities. So sometimes in ESG ranking, activities of European companies is higher than Japanese companies. So Japanese companies in late of 1990s, Japanese companies proceeded their activities higher than other companies, but after that, they stopped steadily. And I interviewed some of global companies, person in charge of environmental management or ESG activities. So they say Japanese companies, big companies, change the level is not changed enough. So I think European companies, European companies level is higher than Japan companies. So, but it is difficult to compare because as I said, criteria of the company of evaluation is different. So there are many criteria. So it is difficult to compare such reports also. So ESG reporting is one of big issues for researching these days. And the third,
how did you manage to get a large sample?
It's a very important question. And in my early survey, I researched the method of visiting. And so before visiting, so mailing to the companies directly and say yes to answer and visiting after visiting. But so, and visiting method is effective, but it's very too costly. For example, hire people to visiting and ask. So these days, my empirical research is done by method of mailing method. So using mailing method, the effectiveness answer is around 20% or so. So it's very difficult. And these days, there is a regulation to use personal information also. So questionnaire survey becomes difficult to be implemented. So, are you okay?
Yes, very satisfied, very clear, everything. Thank you so much. And yes, I'm going to lead your paper.
Yeah, and please give me question by email also.
Oh, yes, I would. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I see there is a question from Hai-san.
Hello, Sensei. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you to the Mithir Sensei for arranging this seminar, and Zaima Sensei for very interesting presentation. My name is Haisam. I am from Graduate School of Management and currently pursuing MBA. And my research focus is more about sustainability and inclusive development issues. And I am pretty much interested in this topic of CSV, CSR, and ESG, particularly being a business student as well. So actually, if I come to my question, so one of my question is actually kind of asked already, and you answered pretty well. But I would like to add something like you just I was interested to know the comparison between the Japanese companies with the European companies. You have answered, but I would like to know what do you think if there are some sort of incentives can be provided to Japanese SMEs or any other countries like to improve their ESG ranking, or so that sort of motivation to motivate them to comply more with the those sort of things, and particularly considering the fact how we can avoid the greenwashing or the whitewashing phenomena as well. And second question, last question actually. So unlike financial information, like ESG data is like, as we have learned, like it is considered to be some sort of unstructured or source from the self-reporting, like for their own reports only. Usually companies only comply with the ISO certification, but not really the ESG portion. And ISO, I learned about ISO 14001 long time ago. Like it's very typically related to the environment only. So what do you think, how we can improve the transparency issues as well for the investors to promote SRI, like socially responsible investments as well? So, and when it comes to the countries who are least developed, and there is not really an appropriate reporting structure as well. Yeah, that's all. Thank you very much.
Well, very excellent questions. And the first one you asked me, what motivates companies for ESG activities, right?
Yes, and some sort of incentives maybe to rank up the Japanese company, for example.
Yeah. So, and in Japan, ESG ranking has started. So it's one motivate for the large companies. And in Japan, CDP ranking is popular, becoming popular, and concerning climate change and forestry stewardship also. So, and other rankings, for example, Nikkei ESG ranking started. So it's motivate, but most large companies say that. So they have to do for things for SDGs targets. So ranking is just maybe motivation, one of motivation, but at the person in charge of the companies, they say, so it's a normal thing for company to do such a thing for SDGs because they are because industries also face with scarcity of resources and planetary boundaries. So, そうなので、必ずしもmotivation. So I think that situation is different in country EU or in Japan. So, and in Japan is なんていうのかな、Japanese companies 地味だってなんていうんですか、modest to but European and American companies disclose open and their information very much, but Japanese companies, so it is not good for to publish their activities to open. So ESG ranking sometimes is lower, I think.
Mm-hmm. I understood this point actually. This is very important and very, yeah, thank you.
And
So,
the second question is about transparency issue. And I think it's very important. So, and for example, blockchain technology concerning to gathering environmental burdens is very important, and I will in near future such blockchains and technology will be installed to environmental management for supply chain. So transparency, we can check the information from the system, but at present, such a information system is not effective at present. But many researches has been done. So such a new technology will improve transparency of companies' activities. So I think. So and ISO's management and transparency is, for example, certification of ISO certification can give transparency, but it's it's like passport for companies to do business in the worldwide, I think.
Understood. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sensei.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
My son, it's okay?
Hi.
Yes, Sensei. Yeah, I'm clear. Thank you very much.
Have more questions, please email me.
Sure, I will. I'm already very impressed with your 2 PhD degrees. I would like to, like maybe request some questions from you later on regarding my research as well. Actually, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there anyone else who would like to ask a question or make a comment? There is something in the chat. Some companies have environmental management system or invest in SDGs because they would like to respond to a large customer's request. If they don't have environmental management system, the customer would decrease their supplier's rank. Could that be realized as one incentive?
Yeah, that's maybe incentive for the company. Yes, I think.
Yes. This is the so-called customer's pressure.
Yeah.
Customer's pressure.
But these days, investors' pressure is larger.
Yeah, the ESG issue is like investors' pressure. Okay.
Maybe I can add actually, I came across such kind of model. I was working in some EPC industry. So our client would require us for mega projects, all of the sub vendors, contractors, they would have to comply with at least quality like ISO 9001. And for some like manufacturing, they also require OSHA's certification as mandatory. So there is some sort of like those big customers or clients, they used to hold some sort of approved vendor list based on all those factors. So I think like this is one of the incentives for many SMEs to consider being more compliant towards such sort of body of knowledge or the social responsibility things, to consider it as their business responsibility. So it could be really good incentive actually. That's what I think.
Thank you.
Thank you for the nice comment. Yeah. Is there anyone else?
Thank you.
Yeah, maybe one last question from me. Can I ask a question? So I have been doing some research about green economy. So it's a little bit similar to the green management. And usually in the green economy, there is notion about win-win, you know? So we can, for example, have economic growth and we can also have a better environment. And this concept, especially CSV, sounds a little bit similar, like companies can have some good impact on the environment and they can have better financial performance. So it sounds very good, but is it true? Because when we discuss about sustainability, there's the problem of trade-offs between like economic objectives and environmental objectives. So maybe on the surface it may look very beautiful, but there is some ugly side of it that in many cases I think economic considerations take priority before the environmental considerations, because let's say environmental management can be quite costly, already pointed out. So what do you think about these trade-offs in terms of
trade-off is in companies in state also companies activities, but CSV leads to improvement, doing activities for improvement of both performances. But Sensei's question is related to breaking of micro-macro linkage. So for company level, it is if the activity is good for the company and for the society, but aggregation is not necessarily good for the society. So it's micro-macro linkage and to dynamic transition viewpoint is necessary, I think. So I use agent-based modeling because including model of society and based on micro level activities. So I think micro-macro linkage modeling is very difficult. But どうなんでしょうね。As I think from the business side and the company's management side, I can't attain the sustainability but from the viewpoint of all of us, it's very difficult. So the micro-macro linkage is not stable and not exist.
Not very strong.
So
I see. Okay, I think our time is already over. So finally, let me thank Professor ZAIMA for her wonderful talk. I think as a result of this talk, we got a deeper understanding about various very relevant concepts, like, for example, CSV, green management, and others. And of course, I think we can continue this discussion for a long time, but as always, we have the time constraints. So finally, please allow me to again say thank you and finish today's workshop. And thanks everyone for your participation. If you have any further questions, please don't hesitate to contact me or contact directly Professor ZAIMA. And I hope that we can see each other again in future events. I will send you information when we organize something like that in the future. Thank you and goodbye. Have a nice evening.